That is part of the beauty of all literature. You discover that your longings are universal longings, that you're not lonely and isolated from anyone. You belong. A few years ago, I was journaling and I had a thought and I wrote it down and I had a realization, and I haven't really forgotten that moment since. And it's so simple, but I wrote, "I feel the most alive when I create." And it was like a big moment for me where I realized that there is this thing that makes me feel so much more alive than a lot of other things. And that was important, and it was something to pay attention to. I remember having an affinity for art, for music, for words, lyrics, poetry, for anything that said something without explicitly saying it, for anything that could make me feel something that I couldn't just naturally feel in any given moment. I remember as a kid, I would collect poetry books. I started writing quotes in my notes app in like 2015 and still do it to this day. So I just have like years and years of words that really resonated with me in different times throughout my life. And it's really fun to just like see how it all evolved. I remember one of the first major times that I really just fell in love with words on paper. I was like, I don't know, 12 or 13, and I read this book. It was called If You Feel Too Much. And I just remember reading that book and thinking, holy crap, like there it is. Like there is my experience on paper in words. The English language is doing my internal world justice right now in a way that I couldn't have done on my own. And I remember just feeling so awake and alive in that moment reading that book, and I was like, wow. Like there's so much out there in the world that is waiting for me to explore. And there are so many things that make me feel things that I can't even begin to describe because they feel so good. One of my favorite feelings in the whole entire world, I will probably be on my deathbed and nothing will still ever beat this feeling. I am so sure of it. It's being at a concert with an artist that really just like means the world to you, or a song, or just whatever. And being in that room with sometimes thousands and thousands and thousands of people, and that one song is played, like your song is being played, the one that you came for, the one that you were waiting for, that speaks to you so sincerely, and you're just in there, you're in that room with thousands of people just screaming these lyrics at the top of their lungs, but it all comes together, and it's one of the most beautiful and cohesive things I've ever heard in my entire life. There's nothing more beautiful to me than the sound of thousands of people just existing at once and pouring themselves into that very moment. It's such a beautiful thing. Like, how can you sit there and feel alone? How can you sit there and not feel alive? I've never felt more alive than I did in those moments. Come to think of it, sometimes being a human is draining. Sometimes it's more than we're willing to deal with at the moment. And even in my darkest of moments, I find myself just trying to pull the pain or the emotions or the thoughts and feelings, just trying to pour them out of me, like physically pour them out of me, whether it's like writing shitty, stupid poetry that no one's ever gonna read, or talking to myself in my car or bedroom, recorded though, so it's a little less weird, so my therapist is not concerned. Whether it's crying, like physically crying, listening to songs that make me cry, listening to other people create and exist and pour themselves out into the world. It's such a good feeling to know that there is always something that you can connect with. There's always something that you're gonna hear or see or come across at any given moment in your life, and you're gonna say, shit, I needed to hear that. I needed to see this. I'm so glad I found this song. I'm so glad I read this book. I'm so glad this person said that thing earlier today, because I'm never gonna forget that. And that is what's so beautiful about expression and communication, and you know, whether it be verbal, nonverbal, artistic, it's such an amazing part of being human, if not the most amazing part of being human. And potentially, you know, being able to create something in this world and leave it behind, no matter what it might be, that's really cool too. Like, you lived for something, you were here, and you felt human feelings and did human things. And I've always held my favorite things so unbelievably close to my heart. And if there is someone in my life that I love, I always want to share those things with them, like whether it's a certain band or song or book or movie that just makes me feel alive. I want to share it with them. But I usually find that whatever it is doesn't seem to touch them as much as it touches me. And I'm usually left kind of disappointed. I feel these things so deeply. And I feel like, in a way, they become me. They become a part of me. And it turns into something that will always have meaning, or always speak to me in some way, or I'll remember it as something that spoke to a past version of me. Even now, I feel like I'm not able to verbally communicate what it really is that I'm feeling and thinking. I always long to know that someone else is feeling what I'm feeling, and that maybe someone else is feeling it at the same extreme that I am, and to let other people know that someone else is feeling what they're feeling, and they might also be feeling it at that same extreme. I feel like there is no deeper form of intimacy, of human connection, than literally showing up and telling someone that you see them, that you quite literally feel them, you feel what they are feeling, and that they're not alone in feeling it. We need reminders that we're not alone, and if we look for them, they are all around us in the form of people, places, songs, art. They're everywhere, they're all around us. And the best thing about it is that people are never going to stop making art. I've never been much of a creative person, at least I don't feel that I am, but I still have this like drive to create. And you know, maybe it doesn't have to be physical art, you know, maybe it doesn't have to be something beautiful, maybe it can just be as silly as sitting on my floor talking to my camera, because as tiny as it is, that is a form of creation. It creates thoughts, it creates feelings, it creates connection, it creates emotion, reflection. There's nothing more comforting to me in this world than being in a situation or feeling a feeling and having a place to look to that says what you're feeling is a human emotion, what you're experiencing is a human experience, and you are absolutely not the only one doing it, and you never will be the only one doing it. And whether it be big or small, there are so many ways that people can come together, whether or not we're physically close, and let each other know that we are valid and we are living this beautiful thing called life, even if it's really, really ugly at times. And that one day we'll be able to look back and maybe realize how silly it all was. And maybe one day we'll be able to look forward and be excited for the future and feel peace and comfort and security in knowing that we are simply alive. And, well, I guess what more is there to really ask for?